Hey everyone, welcome to Smash Trivia. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia to follow everything happening with me. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. I'm so excited to get into this. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, in this series, I'm going to review everything Hulk, all the movies and TV shows. Maybe at some point I could get into comics, but that's a while off. Hope you enjoy. Smash Trivia presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening if they could please do something for me. Please share the hell out of this podcast with all your friends. Because I really want to get the Gamma Analysis to be big enough that by the time She-Hulk comes out, then maybe I could become press and either get like the first episode early or be invited to the premiere or even just get one of the press goodie bags. For this episode, I'm going to review The Incredible Hulk 77, Episode 3. Just so you know, this is not a critical podcast. Every episode of mine, I will always try to put out positive vibes. So while I will mention a couple of things I don't like, I won't dwell on them. And the majority of my review will be things I liked in it. With that being said, I do have a guest today. I'm not going to force him to follow the same code of positivity if he doesn't want to. Our guest today is Keith, a.k.a. KeithSketches, a.k.a. Filmkritter with a K. Keith is also the one who made my magnificent logo. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing good, John. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Nice.
So,
how's my mic coming through? Is it good?
It's coming in pretty well.
Sweet.
So I have a trivia question, as I do every episode. So this week's, which Hulk villain has an oversized cranium? What is your answer for that, Keith?
I think a lot of people would make the mistake of saying something like Brainiac, but that's a DC villain. I think it's the Leader, if I'm not mistaken. I think his name is the Leader, which we almost got back in the Edward Norton Hulk 2008.
Yes, we did almost get that in the 2008 film, but I will reveal whether that is actually correct or not later in the episode. And also, before I start my review, I just want to say I do not recap everything I watch scene by scene, so I highly recommend watching the episodes before you listen. All right, let's get into this review. So the episode's titled The Final Round. So what did you think of that title for the episode?
I think it immediately, knowing that it was called The Final Round, and then I started the episode, it gives you this, what's to come type of thing, this preview at the very beginning of the episode, and I went, wait, is this a previously on? And my brain was trained to think that I'd missed a couple episodes because it was talking about stuff I'd never seen. And I was like, no, wait a minute, skip. So then we find out, okay, this is the one with Rocky, and this is the one with the boxing. Yeah, I was very happy that it was called The Final Round's a perfect name for this.
Yeah, it was a great name for this episode. And actually, my first note was talking about the that opening flashing bunch of scenes before the theme. Is I also thought that was really weird because it wasn't a previously on segment.
It threw me off. It reminded me of one thing I hate about trailers today, where they have to give you a sneak peek of the trailer before the trailer starts, and it's like, the trailer starts now, and it's like 5 seconds before the trailer even starts. It gives you a zoomed in version so that you know not to click away because you're going to want to see that last scene that you saw for a millisecond. It's a product of social media. It drives me insane, but whatever. Trailers are trailers. It's a whole different thing.
Oh, this happened before social media, so you can't blame that for this.
It was weird to see it in the 70s. I was like, wait, why do you have to tell? And then I guess I just thought, okay, well, I guess if you're sitting at home and you just put on the Hulk for the first time and you haven't seen episode 1 or 2, maybe you need this incentive to stay tuned or something.
To me, it felt like the 30-second promos that TV shows would have for their next episode that they show at the end of an episode.
Yep.
It was at the beginning of the episode, so it was just so weird.
It drives me and my fiance nuts. We watched a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race, and at the end of every episode, we'll be streaming it on Crave TV or something like that, and at the end of the episode, it'll show next time on, and it's like, we don't need to see next time on. We're binging it. And I don't want to watch any of the next episode until it happens. So it'll always jump to the remote.
I like the line from one of the muggers. you better give me my money before my buddy gets mad because he's one tough dude.
Oh, the muggers have some of the best, worst lines ever in this episode. It's really like they gave all the good lines and the good writing to the two main characters, and then they go up to the muggers and the henchmen and stuff. But I would even say before the mugging even happens, the fact that this takes place 30 minutes from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is where Rocky took place, the fact that this episode came out like 2 years after the movie Rocky came out, before Rocky 2, which I was surprised. So it was just Rocky 1 that this was taking inspiration from. And it was just like, that's like clearly maybe not the first time that Rocky has highly affected pop culture or inspired pop culture, but it wouldn't be the last, that's for damn sure. And the music's the same and the city setup is the same. It just felt through. I'm a huge Rocky fan. So when I saw this, I was like, damn, you guys really like Rocky apparently.
Yeah. So what's your first note?
My first note was when I finally saw a close-up of Rocky, the character in this episode, Rocky, his face. I recognized him, so I Googled him and I checked out. His name's Martin Kove. He's currently in the TV series, the very popular show Cobra Kai, because he was in 2 of the Karate Kid movies. But he's also been in over 230 roles. He actually got to work alongside Sylvester Stallone in the Rambo 2 or First Blood 2, Second Blood. Anyways, a lot of titles there. Point is, he was playing a part that he eventually got to work with later on. So maybe Stallone had some words with him on the set of Rambo 2 about like, saw that Hulk episode you were in. Good job. Something like that.
Yeah, which I had that too, but I put that in my trivia section for later in the episode. But I have a little bit more to add to it, so I'll just say that again when I do the trivia section. I was really hoping that the Hulk would come out on those muggers, but honestly, I kind of like that a just random person was coming to save David. I think that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was cool to see the kind of like you get to see David Banner in non-Hulk form. He's kind of a skinny dude. He's a science guy. He's very friendly, but he's not physically very threatening. And then you get to see him contrast with this like all physical all the time tough guy in Wilmington, and he's this character of Rocky is such a totally opposite character to David Banner, and I really liked that friendship.
My next bit of stuff was, how did they manage to make this? Since Rocky was made by a different company, so I feel like they would come after them for that blatant inspiration, I'll say. But they talked to me a little bit off air, but I think you are right of it being about very much how he would have been friends with Lou Ferrigno, so he probably was fine with them doing it.
I took it as a compliment,
Yeah.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, too, is, like, he's talking about, like, the Rocky character. They get back to Rocky's apartment with David and him fixing up his eye and everything. And he talks about not only there being many Rockies before him, he might not even be talking about Rocky the movie character, because there's also 2 other famous boxers at this point, Rocky Graziano and Rocky Marciano. So it's like Rocky was already kind of a trope nickname for a boxer. And then on top of that, he says, I'm going to be a contender. And I'm going to be a contender is very similar to a line from an old Marlon Brando movie called On the Waterfront, where he says, it could have been a contender. And it's all about a prize fighter that gets wooed over to the mob to do low-level, grunt work or like muscle man jobs. It's definitely what Rocky the movie took inspiration from. So it's like it's a quote from a movie that was inspired by another movie that inspired a movie called... It's just insane how meta crazy it all loops back around. So it's like it all just gets lost in the mud, I think, at this point. So there probably wasn't too much of a heavy legal battle when it came to, oh yeah, he's making reference to us kind of thing. I think it was probably pretty mellow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably. I wonder what the guy fixing his car outside Rocky's apartment was doing wrong, that he couldn't fix it in 2 hours, but Rocky could in 2 seconds.
I really like that line later where he says he could be the first mechanic to open up a shop and specialize in faith healing. I enjoyed that joke. That was pretty funny. And the guy who's trying to fix his car, I think his character's name's Tommy. I could be wrong. But the guy fixing his car, I recognized him too. Just like last couple episodes, I keep recognizing people like George Feeney and stuff. This guy's named John Witherspoon. And I immediately was like, holy shit, this guy is in, a ton of different things, including a lot of Ice Cube's first movies, the Friday series. He's in like every one of them. He played the granddad in the animated series The Boondocks. And he's also in the Wayans Brothers show and the Tracy Morgan show. He's constantly popping up in movies over and over again. And I was just like, wow, that guy used to be young. I've never seen him not play a grandfather. So it's pretty awesome. I'm going to skip ahead. I just went through. Okay. When you saw Mr. I think Sarajevo, I don't know if it's pronounced that right, but when you saw this guy in a turtleneck and a brown suede jacket sitting there in the boxing training facility, did you immediately go, that's a bad guy?
Are you talking about the boss at the...
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty quickly I was able to figure that out.
Like he had a henchman next to him.
Yeah.
Like that looked like Sylvester Stallone, which was kind of funny.
I have a few more notes before I get to that point, so I'll just go through those real quick. I don't know if he's good with this stuff in the comics, but I really like that David is good at being a medic in this. I also really like that he jokes about if he can hear, because I don't remember David having any comedy in the first 2 episodes, and I think this gave him more personality. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yes, I 100% agree. What I was thinking too is throughout this episode, he showed this in the first 2 episodes as well. He's so likable. Like he's just a really friendly dude. And I feel like other versions of Bruce Banner, I mean, this isn't the same guy, I guess, but it's the other versions of him we've seen. He's very reserved. He's very scared of bringing out the beast, bringing out the other guy. And so he's very withdrawn. He's not good at making friends and being social. And this version of him is very different that way. And I liked that, but also thought it was maybe a thing of the times, because nowadays we get the most popular heroes are often very antisocial or even anti-heroes. They're not, openly good dudes. Like right now, we're even dealing with Hawkeye, who in that series, we know he's not a guy of many words. He's not a banter guy like Tony Stark or anything. And like other famous favorites are like, Wolverine, Logan. He's not a friendly guy at all. He would tell you to get away from him. And, and other big anti-heroes like Don Draper or Walter White or Jon Snow, like they're not friendly. They're just kind of quiet and laconic. And yet this guy's just a charmer. He's charming the pants off everybody. It's a wonderful thing to see. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, I really do love that about the character. But I said Rocky has some great determinism. Also, I tried to see if there was anything to the name of the Olympus gym, but sadly I couldn't find anything that it was a reference to. Did you find anything?
No. I honestly, I was probably thinking about all these like meta things that I didn't even think of the Olymp. I know Olympian gym or something. I don't know. Gold's Gym is like the only famous name I know of a gym. So
I don't think it's probably based on a giant chain of gyms that exists in real life. I know it shouldn't be this, but it always surprises me when I see how much different pay for a job is today versus, in this case, the 70s. It was like, wow, in a week he's only making that much.
It was like 85 a week?
Yeah,
I think that's what he said. Like, yeah. He's like, I'll give you 85 a week. And he's like, do you know anything about physiotherapy? Because my guys have been messed up before by quacks or whatever. And he like starts listing off muscles and muscle groups. And he's just like, all right, I'll pay you 85 a week. I was like, what? The amount of training that this takes, a physiotherapist would take like 85 a minute. It's crazy. So funny.
I wrote, wait, how can you be a doctor and at one point a medic and think that bandages aren't important? Because he made this comment to Rocky while he was holding the some of the stuff he was delivering, and because Rocky told him that it was just bandages, and David was like, bandages aren't important, which I was like, what? That's a weird line for a doctor and once a medic to say.
That's fair. That's fair. And he had to say it, of course, right within earshot of Mr. Sarago or whatever. Sarago.
Yeah. I had also wrote that since before I found out what actually was being said, I was like, but also bandages aren't shady enough for how they're acting. It's so obvious that it's not bandages.
Let's hope with how shady they're being. Yeah, it's unless that maybe they're really shady bandages. Maybe they're made of like, untested materials or something. Who knows? Well, you tell me if this is too far ahead. We kind of skipped to the alley fight with my next note.
Next note was not is I think that is skipping a little bit because I do have a bunch of notes before that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before that alley fight, and we do see the muggers again, I wasn't expecting to see them again. I thought that was just going to be like a cold open for the show, and then they don't come back. So that really surprised me. I had wrote some stuff that actually relates with me. I hope Rocky's girlfriend comes to realize how much wrestling means to him. Yes, he needs money, but sometimes you have to push through without to get to your dreams. Like, I worry about money all the time, but I don't think I can make it in a normal job, so I'm pushing through to try and make my dreams support me.
Very well said. I'd say that's a huge lesson for everybody is that you got to try things out for yourself. And I think that's the argument. This I can understand and relate to Rocky's standpoint when he is kind of arguing with her. And there's that moment where she's just concerned for him, because it is such a dangerous job or a dangerous gig to put yourself as a punching bag essentially every week in the long-term problems. And he already knows that he's got high blood pressure, which is really bad for a boxer. But more so things like concussions or like if there were problems, like if he was getting headaches a lot, this is the type of person who really shouldn't be in the ring. But I was going to say with the one note I have about his girlfriend, whose name I think Mary, I've completely forgotten her real name, but I immediately just saw her and went, there's our Adrian, because in the Rocky movies, Adrian looks almost identical to this character. Just she's shy, she's bashful, she doesn't do eye contact very well and is wearing her work uniform, which is almost identical to Adrian, which is one of my favorite leading ladies in a film is Adrian, because she is so, he basically in those movies, they help each other out in the sense that he proves to her that she can fight for herself and kind of rise up against, she has like an abusive older brother, and she kind of has to break out of her shell and stop being so tightly wound and, everyone's doormat. So I just loved seeing, honestly, this whole episode made me want to watch Rocky again.
David talking to Rocky, and Rocky contradicts what his girlfriend says, as his girlfriend had said that he doesn't have money, versus Rocky told David that he has lots of money coming from the guy who owns the gym, which was so weird because there's not anything later in the episode being like that explains this weird contradiction.
True. I wonder if he's ashamed of, with him getting his money from delivering something he knows could probably, he hasn't opened up one of the bags, but he just kind of turns a blind eye to it. But he knows it's shady enough. I wonder if he just keeps that from her and maybe he's saving up for something nice for the two of them, but he's not going to tell her about it because he's so ashamed, or maybe he's putting off telling her about it. So she thinks he's broke and he's actually not too bad.
Finally, the Hulk is gonna fight muggers. Oh man, because in that first scene, I was really hoping for the Hulk to come out and teach him a lesson. Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier that you were surprised that the muggers had a return appearance in the episode, that they came back. I was at the beginning, I was thinking, okay, so we've seen 2 episodes already. On average, the Hulk comes out twice per every 40 minutes, for example. So let's say that's the average. And I was thinking, okay, if they're going to save it, who are they going to save it for? He's probably going to take on a big group of dudes that he can just throw around because we don't learn any of their names. We don't need to. But I also laughed because when they went and got reinforcements and they're like, yeah, just saw him over at that shop. And then they're like, oh, let's go mess him up. And then the whole walk down the alley together is them like elbowing each other and going, yeah, we're really going to mess him up, aren't we? Won't that be nice? Like, I just thought if that shot just continued and they were going to keep making up dialogue, would they just keep repeating the same crap? Yeah, we're going to mess him up. Yeah.
Yeah, they'd probably turn into NPCs.
That's what it felt like.
Robbers, the muggers again. I love Hulk breaking through the wall.
Yes. Yeah. Did you notice that that was a late? So that wall was clearly a breakaway wall, but it was still made of something that looked like bricks. Earlier, when they're slamming Henry or Rocky, and they're slamming David up against the first brick wall, did you notice that whole wall moved? Like they
I did not actually notice it during the episode, but yeah. Oh man,
it moves like a big piece of aluminum siding. It's like clearly a big set that they've built, and I've been trying to pay attention to that idea that there's stuff that Hulk's gonna have to break. So a lot of this stuff is pretty damn convincing until you see it move like that. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I didn't notice that really in the episode. I did actually see that in the goofs section on IMDb for the episode.
They got a goof section?
Yeah, they have a section for when there's mistakes made in the episodes.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that.
Do you have anything more about this scene, or do you?
Well, the only thing that I thought of when I first see him turn into the Hulk is in this moment, he throws off the shredded shirt. And I was so happy he did because they all look so silly to me. They're just like turned into these like perfect strands of shirt. And he just kept it on in most of the other episodes. So I was like, oh, good. He's like shredded through it. And then he's like, I look dumb in this. And then he went back to fight. And I was like, good. Yeah.
Yes.
I was happy.
Awesome. Is it just me, or did it look like Hulk was in pain before he was turning back into Bruce this first time in the episode? Did you notice that?
I did. I saw him like sauntering over to the stairs to sit down, and I was like, okay, they're doing everything in slow-mo when the Hulk's on camera. So they're even doing his walking. It's one thing when he's throwing people and smashing things, but when he's just walking over some stairs, it made him look so tired. And I wondered if that's all it was, is like he uses this exertion and then it was just kind of exhaustion instead of pain. But it could easily be interpreted as what happened to him. Did he step on a thorn? Like, why is he so drained?
And maybe it's just like I was relating it onto him, but I had a headache while I was watching the episode, and I was like, he looks like he's having a headache.
He can feel you through the screen, John.
Oh man. But yeah, I really was like, he definitely looks like there's something wrong there.
He did. He did. It's the most I've seen, because most of the time he just kind of sits down for a minute. You don't see a lot of pre-acting before that transformation back to David. But this definitely felt like at least Lou Ferrigno looked like he was in pain.
Yeah. I still really don't like this transition of flashing between Bill Bixby's face and Lou Ferrigno's. It's so weird looking at me. And it also makes it even worse. It looks like the body under it is neither of them's body.
Just a stand-in. Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
Like, it almost looks like it's a mannequin.
Maybe they do it like, maybe they superimpose or overlay the faces interacting on the same shot every week or something after a while. I would imagine they'd want to start finding faster ways to do it and less time in the makeup chair. I'm surprised. It doesn't feel like we've seen the same shots though. Where Bill Bixby clearly has the whole like Neanderthal brow on him. I feel like they did that for every time he's changed, which is impressive for the 70s.
Yeah, that is impressive. I was thinking that the drugs were cocaine. I definitely didn't think of heroin because I didn't know that heroin could be a powder. I thought it was just an injectable.
It's strange. I thought the same thing about it being cocaine. I knew heroin was a powder in some forms, and you usually like this is all from movies, watching too many movies, but you see a lot in movies where you put a lot like how crystal meth is done in like Breaking Bad. You put the powder in a spoon and you heat it up and it boils, and then you can inject it and put it into a syringe. But the times that I've seen heroin in powder form, it's been brown. So it's probably all different kinds of heroin from different places, but I've never seen just white powder be heroin. I thought that was always cocaine. So I thought the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That just really surprised me when I found out it was heroin. Same place where yours is. I was like, I feel sorry for Rocky. He's so naive. If you don't go back to your boss after finding out that he's having you deliver heroin.
Very true. I think that's one of the best things about both this Rocky character and Sylvester Stallone's Rocky is you care about these guys because they're not the brightest and it's not their fault. And they're such charismatic and kind souls, but they are easily duped and easily fooled. And he's given this shot for the first time to go up and against another guy, a big champion. And when he said, "Oh, I know that Mr. Sariago's just trying to buy me off," I was like, "No, he's trying to kill you." I immediately knew the second he gave him a shot. I was like, he's going to like have the other guy either beat you to death or something. I didn't expect the whole poison thing, but
I didn't expect the poison thing. I definitely agree with you. I was thinking he was just going to be beat to death in the fight because as if he dies in the fight, then there's no legal problem against the boss.
Yeah, it felt like a very much like a Matt Murdock's dad kind of thing.
Yeah. And I didn't remember actually in the original Rocky movie him being this like naive and not very bright. I remember him. I seem to remember him being like a lot smarter than this, but maybe that's just because I haven't seen the original Rocky in probably 10 years.
It's insinuated that he's not the brightest, but he's not clearly definitely not as easily duped as this guy. I feel like he has a bit more sense to him than Henry, sadly.
Yeah. Oh no, his boss wants to set him up to die in the ring. It's the William Dafoe looking reporter. Even though he does nothing.
Oh, God. It was interesting to see them set up McGee as, like, he's been an impediment for him in the past, but at the same time, it's like his showing up in any scenario now is keeping David from being able to save the people that he's gotten involved with. Mm-hmm. And so it's like no problem. I've heard about the poison or I can coerce him to not do the fight, and then McGee shows up and screws up everything and he has to run away. It's like, damn it. If only he could stick around just long enough to solve the problem.
Honestly, as I go through these episodes, I'm starting to get annoyed about this McGee character because I'm like, he's not doing anything. So there's no point in him appearing. Like, I understand he found out that the Hulk's here through the news or something. And so he came, but if he's not going to do anything while he's there, then what's the point in having him appear? And so I imagine I'm going to start getting really annoyed since he appears in every single episode of the show. I'm guessing there's no end game for the character.
I mean, there might be one day. Maybe they're building up to something that's crazy that maybe he'll be more involved in some finales or something like that. Maybe. But I feel like with this show and what a lot of shows that do this, like, it's not like a monster of the week kind of thing, but it is a different kind of problem to solve that has nothing to do with the last episode's characters. So to tie it together with this through line of he's always on the run and he has, okay, here's a reason I need to leave. Dave McGee, Jack McGee is clearly meant to be the out reason, the out game where he has to go and continue on his journeys. If Jack McGee never shows up, then David would just be happily settled where he is.
Yeah, I can understand that, but it's just
he is a plot device, though.
He very much is just a plot device. Like,
yeah.
Honestly, I wish that he were just like in that first episode of him being like the first villain that Hulk takes down. I think that would have been so much better versus having him at every episode where he barely does anything. It's basically just a cameo role.
Yeah. Well, you feel Willem Dafoe deserves better. That's what it is. He's like, oh man, he's not a cameo actor. He's a leading man.
Yeah. My next note was, I wonder what this supposedly all-natural liquid is that he's trying to poison Rocky with. It's like, that feels very plot devicey that I don't know if that's actually a real thing.
It seemed convenient. I can't imagine anything being all natural that's really bad for your high blood pressure. And it's clear and it has no taste, I assume, because otherwise he'd probably be a little suspicious. Yeah.
He's going to be mad when he wakes up in that cage. Those bars aren't going to stop the Hulk.
It was such a weird choice to hang him above everybody. Like, wasn't there a storage closet that was far back enough that he wouldn't even know where he was, kind of thing? You hang him above so he can watch the whole thing happen.
Oh man,
it was awesome.
Yeah.
My only note at this point was basically the shot for shot, the moments that were the way that the boxing was shot, the sound effects, the shots themselves. It doesn't look great, but I think I myself am used to a lot of boxing films that I've seen. They focus heavily on making the boxing feel real. And then this was like, okay, this is a 1970s Hulk series. That's clearly not the importance of the episode. So I gave it a little bit of a pass, but I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah. I don't know how to commentate boxing, so I don't know how to talk much about that, but Rocky is definitely getting pummeled.
Not unlike the Sylvester Stallone Rocky, he doesn't win that first movie. He just gets pummeled to high heaven. Yeah. I was mainly laughing during that scene where the guy sitting next to Jack McGee, Jack McGee's just reading the paper, which I thought was funny. But the guy sitting next to him doesn't get a name. We don't know who this man is. He's just really annoying Jack, and then later gets thrown by the Hulk. And I thought that was fun.
Yeah. I love that we actually see, again, just like in the pilot episode, we actually see Hulk break through his shirt this time. Since it's been very few between that they actually are showing that now.
Oh, really? I was going to make a tally of how many shirts the Hulk must have gone through, or David must have gone through by now.
At least I've noticed that a lot of times for the transition to the Hulk, they just cut to him being the Hulk. Versus they do actually have a transition scene normally when he turns back.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess since they discovered that whole glowing green thing and the transition that you don't like, they figured we can at least shoot that. That's easier to shoot instead of the transformation into the Hulk.
Yeah. I was happily surprised that we actually get to see Hulk jump down. I expected it to just cut to him kneeling as if he had just jumped because the jump would be too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
That really surprised me because at least nowadays normally they would either have a stunt person do that or they wouldn't show it.
True. The way I was watching this scene, especially because he's in front of so many people, and it's supposed to be this big major boxing event, it was very clear that the editing was being very savvy with, okay, there was never a moment where there was a full arena of people and Lou Ferrigno in full green at the same time. And I noticed when he jumps down, it's a lot of close-ups in the ring, and especially from below. And then there's like a couple scenes where they show the whole packed stands, but they have just the one like bar of the ring. They don't have anything from the center of the ring. They just have the stands. So they clearly superimposed some moments of an actual boxing match or maybe something else. But yeah, it was clever editing.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised by that clever of editing back in the 70s. I think it's funny that this guy actually thought he could box the Hulk because, like, when Hulk jumps down, the guy who's still in there punches him,
and he just gets yeeted for his efforts. Yeah,
like this giant green and muscly, they just fell all down at you, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna still box him." Like, what?
He's the champ.
He's the
reigning champ. Yeah, I wouldn't have taken that swing.
The person who was sitting right beside Jack McGee in the audience, I don't know what his title was, but I thought it was funny how he's trying to sign Hulk for an entertainment deal, and then Hulk's just like, "Yeah, no, I'm gonna throw you into the rafters."
When Hulk grabs him by the shoulders, he's still smiling, which I thought was hilarious. And I just imagined him up on those lighting rafters or whatever, just being like, "This is the best day of my life." Like, I figured he was just still so happy. He looked elated. It was very funny.
So they never show him being let down from the rafters. So one of my last notes actually from the episode was that I was like, I hope someone got that manager out of the rafters.
He's been up there ever since. Hello? The lights turn off. Anyone?
Oh, that'd be great. Okay, McGee follows Hulk. Yeah, I was like, please tell me he actually does something. Like, I don't really need to go into the rest of that because because I already mentioned and how I'm annoyed by how he just shoehorned into everything. But the next thing was at least Hulk knows when to get out of there after defeating Rocky's boss and seeing McGee, which it surprises me because that means that the Hulk actually does then have all of David's memories because he's able to tell McGee is a bad guy. I shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like he knows, it seems that the Hulk knows who to hit and who not to hit. He knows not to hurt Rocky when he saves him from the muggers. He knows not to, hurt, past characters that are still in the vicinity, but they've shown Hulk anyways no reason why, they might be a friend. So he does seem to remember stuff. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, my only note at the end was basically how funny it was to see things wrap up so quickly. Like they cut to it. It always surprises me when we get to like the final fight or whatever in the end of the fight, and there's only like seconds left of an episode. And so David Banner has to rush off at some point. So I think it's Mary and Rocky walk in, and he's like, "Yeah, I decided I'm going to be a mechanic." And he's like, "That's great." And then it's just like, "Oh, and the reporter's going to come by and do a big story on me." So it's like, "Oh, you're going to probably get some money from this as well. That's great." Well, oh, there's Jack. I got to go, guys. It just ends so perfectly for everyone. It's really funny.
Yeah. It's a good lesson to learn that not every dream works out. At least he has something else to try. Rocky has something else to try. since I relayed before the stuff with that to me, I was relating again to me of like, I'm scared every day that my dream will fail because I have no backup. Like I have no ideas what I would do if my dreams of doing trivia and doing this podcast if they don't turn out. Like this is my only avenue as it stands right now.
And honestly, that's the way I would spend most of my first dreams. I think came with no backups because you have to have such a drive sometimes. It really depends on the person. Some people have 50 backups, and I don't know why they, it's insane to me to have that many on my shoulders. But some people put more drive into the one thing that they're passionate about when they don't think of it as one of many backup plans. They focus, they go, hey, this is a ride or die kind of thing, and then they can put all their energy into it. But yeah, the fact that Rocky in that moment says, I'm glad I tried to be a boxer because it showed me, if I would be guessing or second guessing and wondering all my life if I had never had the chance. So he realizes at the end of the episode, it's a great lesson where he learns, if you don't try something, you're never going to know whether or not you would have been good at it. So, yeah.
My final thoughts on the episode were, so I like this episode better than episodes 2, but it's still not as good as episode 1. I'm already starting to find it annoying that McGee gets shoehorned in, and I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the Lonely Man theme at the end. It makes every episode feel like a downer feeling ending, and it really, to me, at least with this episode, it didn't fit really that well because it was so upbeat, and then all of a sudden, as he leaves, he's like, all right, we're going back to sad. So what were your final thoughts on the episode?
I don't disagree on the was it called Loner Man or the Lonely Man?
A Lonely Man.
The Lonely Man theme is definitely something I think this show gets made fun of for the most, is the idea that, it's such a somber, like depressing theme for some of the greatest episodes of like upbeat and like, everybody's happier because Banner went through their lives and changed things for them. And so many positives at the end of each episode happen, and yet it always ends on that sad note. But yeah, it just takes us back to what he must be going through, I guess, is the idea. But overall, this episode is my second favorite episode for sure. I am excited to see what other last names he comes up with. I love that it's always a B. I hope it always is, and that he goes through the whole damn phone book. That would be wicked.
Yeah. So I have some trivia from this episode. You already took some of my trivia, but all right. So first appearance of Hulk making his escape by breaking through a wall and running down an alley wearing blue pants. This scene was reused many times over the course of the series. This episode is heavily influenced by the film Rocky. Paul McCall, who plays the unnamed man in the audience who sits next to McGee during the fight at the episode's conclusion, who was thrown into the rafters. He played Father Carmine in several of the Rocky films. Interestingly, however, this is an accidental reference to the Rocky films, as he would not actually appear until the following year in Rocky 2. Yeah.
That's really funny.
Tony Brubaker, who played Billy Cole, who fights Rocky in the episode. In Rocky 3, Brubaker played one of Rocky's challengers in the opening montage. So Martin Kove, who plays the boxer Rocky, he co-starred with Stallone in Death Race 2000 before Rocky, and then played a villain in Rambo after. Martin Kove would also go on to achieve widespread popularity in the 80s for portraying the infamous Sensei John Kreese in the Karate Kid movies, and also in Cobra Kai now. Rocky's as you mentioned, Rocky he says he has a shot to be a contender, a homage to Marlon Brando's boxing classic On the Waterfront. And when the gang attacks David the second time, when he's with Rocky, they are shoved into a brick wall. The entire wall bends. You mentioned that already. This happens twice. All right, so we have the answer to our trivia question from earlier, which you were right. It was the leader.
Yes.
You have a final thought before we end off the episode?
I'm keeping a tally. I'm writing how many answers I get right with the trivia and how many times I come up with trivia before you've had a chance to say what the trivia is. This was great, and I thank you for having me on again. This episode was a lot of fun, and I think you've definitely reinstated a certain amount of appreciation I have for older television. I love it a lot, man.
All right. Well, thank you for being on here, man. Thank you for listening, and if you like this gamma analysis, please give a 5-star rating. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the episode, so please let me know. And if you'd like to listen to more from me, please subscribe. Many more gamma analysis coming from me, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Smash Trivia John, signing off.